Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And on day one, President Trump issued an executive order that requires agencies to pause the disbursement of funds that were authorized, Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. There is a legal mechanism for changing past law. It's called a rescission. And there's an illegal way. It's called an impoundment. Will you send a rescission message to Congress, or will you use the illegal impoundment strategy?
Senator, thanks for the question. Those EOs were, again, pauses to ensure that the funding that is in place is consistent and moves in a direction along the lines of what the president ran on, unleashing American energy away from the Green New Deal.
The rescissions or impoundments? Which strategy will you use? That's a simple question.
There's a section in those EOs that says that the Office of Legislative Affairs will work with the Office of Management and Budget. They may put forward rescissions, but again, the language of the EO says required by law, and it's meant to do a programmatic delay to figure out what are the best ways to make sure that the funding is shifted.
Thank you. I'll just note that you are not willing to say that you will use rescissions, the legal method, rather than the illegal method. That is a big concern for all of us here, because the Constitution laid out the vision that Congress makes the law, not the president. So the fact that you continue to advocate for this impoundment strategy, that is completely in violation of our Constitution, and I'm deeply disturbed that you will not renounce that today. So let's turn to work requirements. You've been a big advocate of work requirements. You encourage states to adopt waivers that would allow them to do that for Medicaid. One state tried it, Arkansas. It produced no increase in the hours worked, no increase in employment. It failed. Why did it fail? Because the way that people are able to work is when they're healthy. When they can't access health care because you want to cut it off, they're really trapped in poverty. And trapping people in poverty is really, well, not helpful. Now that your idea failed so miserably, are you going to advocate for it again?
You know, Senator, one of the major legislations that our side has been very proud of since the 1990s was the impact of welfare reform in the 1990s. It led to caseload reductions, people getting off of welfare, going back into the workforce. And we think that type of thinking should be applied to other federal programs. And it's informed not only Medicaid, but other programs to be able to encourage people to get back into the workforce, increase labor force participation, and give people, again, the dignity of work.
And you believe cutting off health care encourages people to work when they need to get better health in order to work? It doesn't make any sense.
Again, Senator,
and it's been a failed experiment, but you've answered the question. You're still an advocate of that failed approach that traps people in poverty and is quite disturbing. Now, according to the Treasury Department analysis produced this month, the Trump tax giveaways would give an average tax cut of $314,000 to the richest Americans, the top 0.1%, and $6 annually to the average member of the bottom 10%. A cup of coffee for those trying to get on their feet in the course of a year, and $300,000 in additional income for the richest Americans. Isn't this kind of ass backwards?
Senator, the president's tax cuts provided tax cuts for all Americans. It had a sizable increase in the child tax credit. It had expansion of the standard deduction. It was something that benefited all Americans, and as a result led to a strong economy that we hope to replicate again by having an extension of those important tax cuts.
So you're very comfortable with a cup of coffee per year for the bottom 10% while you give $300,000 to the richest Americans, according to the Treasury Department analysis?
Look, there are people at the higher end who are in charge of small businesses that are taking great risks to innovate and hire additional people that are not in their tax bracket, and that's part of the way that you structure economic growth.
My final question, because I'm running out of time. At your think tank in 2023, you proposed $3.6 trillion in tax giveaways, primarily going to the richest Americans. And to make the numbers work, you assume that your giveaway would produce the magic asterisk. You're probably familiar with the magic asterisk. Magic asterisk is saying, don't worry, be happy, the economy will improve because we give away the treasury to the richest Americans and more revenue will come in. It's failed every single time. It's been put forward. Not a single analysis has confirmed it, and not from any serious analysis from CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, not from the Joint Committee on Taxation. And yet, are you still a believer in the magic asterisk?
Senator, I'm a believer in dynamic growth for sure, that when you cut taxes, it actually has a dynamic impact on the economy. And we see that with revenues continuing to go up after all of the tax cuts that we've seen in history, 1920s, 1960s, 1980s, both of the Bush tax cuts and including and then the Trump tax cuts. We've seen a dynamic impact on the economy.
Your facts are wrong, but we'll continue the discussion, I'm sure.
During the first term before COVID, wasn't African-American Hispanic household incomes at their highest?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Senator Grassley.